I came to, I went to the checkout counter at Barnes and Noble. They handed me an envelope with $101.29. And I came home to my wife and I was so excited. I had so much gratitude. I was like, Jen, I sold 12 books. Like, how cool is that? I got to sign and sell 12 books. It's not about, how many books we sell. It's about hearts, not charts.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's an author podcast that I love because I get to meet amazing people. And there was this evening, my wife was watching TV and I was not supposed to be on my phone, but I was, and I was just kind of scrolling through TikTok, doing the thing, mindlessly. And then I see this video of an author sitting at like a little folding table, looked like it was, I think it was black table, books gently, lovingly displayed, and this author sitting at the table and people walking by, and it was almost like he was invisible in the moment. And I'm like, it was a mother-daughter often out, and they're kind of filming it from a distance. And I'm like, wait a minute. And as I watched this, I watched these people walk past this author. And I'm like, I got really convicted. And I thought, here's an author out there talking about their book, meeting people, sharing the story of their journey, what we do on the show in like 600 episodes. And I thought, have I ever walked past an author, sat up with their table, and just walked past, like on my phone, not giving a second thought? And I went, what if I had time to talk to this author? And what if they said yes to coming on my show? I would do a happy dance. I would do a happy dance right now, but I'm sitting on my desk. I want to make sure I can do this right. He said yes. And Jonathan is here, the author from that clip that made me super reflective. And I'm so excited to have him here. Jonathan, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you on the show.
Oh, it's so great to be here, and what a memorable moment. I mean, the universe cracked open. That video's been seen by over 83 million people, and I've received messages from every corner of the planet with their love, encouragement, and support. It's been an incredible journey.
The day that you went to that bookstore, did you have any sweet clue that this could be a reality for you, that could happen in the moment?
No, not at all, Dave. I mean, I think the media and their angle got it wrong, and I understand why. But all the headlines across every major media news outlet was lonely author at book signing. But the truth was, I went to Barnes and Noble. I asked for that book signing. I wanted to be there. I think it's a privilege to be able to connect with readers and to be part of an author signing. So, it was a privilege for me to be sitting in that chair. And yes, I had to carry in my own box of books and set up the table. And it was a very small table. But it was an important moment for me to show up with intention and to connect with people in real and meaningful ways. And then, of course, this moment from Taylor Donnelly, the woman behind the camera, who came to that moment with people walking past me with empathy and kindness, and shot a 10-second video clip that, spiraled across continents, was absolutely surreal.
Wow. Okay, so where was that store where you were set up?
So I was doing an author signing at Barnes & Noble in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So it's about 20 minutes from my house. And funny enough, I haven't shared this story, but I received a pair of hand-me-down Bostonians from a dear friend of mine. I've had them for like 8 years, right? And so I put them on and I wore them proudly, and I took a picture of my feet and I sent a text to him saying, I'm off to Barnes & Noble for a book signing, wearing your shoes for good luck. Little did I know, that this would turn out to be a global viral moment.
Okay, I got to ask, where do I get a pair of those shoes? I need some of this in my life, Jonathan. Come on.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it was special.
You're sitting there. Were you aware of that you were being filmed in that moment, or that there was someone kind of in your presence at that point?
I had no idea, but
Okay,
really? What I did know was I had this incredibly meaningful exchange with strangers. So,
Yeah.
this 4-year-old girl, she comes bravely marching up to my table and she plants her feet and she says, "I want to be an author when I grow up."
Come
And I
on.
was like, wow. I was like, really? Tell me about a book you've written. And she said, "I just wrote a book about possums." And so we had this really sort of meaningful, intimate exchange. It was special. And I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "My name's Ella." And this brave girl, she was just full of confidence, and it was just an amazing moment. And then of course her mom appears, and she said, "I was telling Ella that you're here to share your book with the world." So Ella said, "We've got to come and meet you and buy a book." And so they bought a book, and I made it out to Ella. I said, "The most beautiful gift you have to offer is you." And that was
Mm.
the end of it. So the next morning I wake up, I post on LinkedIn about this really special moment at Barnes and Noble with this brave 4-year-old girl who shared her dream of becoming an author. And little did I know, meanwhile, her 10-second video clip was gaining millions of views, and my TikTok account was blowing up.
And you
Yeah.
and you hadn't even put the pieces together, I
I
guess, that
hadn't put
morning.
the
You're like, what's
pieces.
going on?
No, so, I was on my laptop that day, and I received an email from a stranger saying, "You're going viral on TikTok." And I thought it was spam. I was about to delete the email when my wife Jen and my stepdaughter Sammy came, running up the stairs, and they started yelling, "You're going viral on TikTok." And I was like, "What does that actually mean?" Right? So Sunday morning I had one follower, my biggest fan, Jen. And, a few days later I've got 740,000 followers. It was surreal. And I was doing media interviews with NBC Nightly News and CNN, and doing articles with the Washington Post and People Magazine. And it was crazy. It was beautiful.
So for the authors that are listening out there, not that this is going to be recreatable by everybody, unless you have the shoes, apparently, but for authors that think, well, should I go out and sit and talk about my book in public, go to a fair, like a little, festival fair, set up a table, a tent, or be at a bookstore and talk to people? Would you encourage people that you need to get out and talk about your book in public? Or, because I think a lot of people struggle author-wise with promotion. They want to be salesy. They don't want to be all this, but they got this big box of books on their kitchen table. They don't know how to get out there in front of people. Like, would you encourage them to do stuff like this? Go out and spend time talking to people in public about your book?
Yeah, my book is about creating purpose and meaning. The message in the book is about bringing humanity back to work. And I think that central to that message is showing up. I think that when you deeply believe in your message, and the story you've written is going to change someone's life, just one person, if you can touch one person, then showing up matters. And that was what I deeply felt when I showed up at that Barnes and Noble signing. I truly believe that if we can write a book and we can transform someone's life in a meaningful way through story, then we've got to believe enough in that message to get through that uncomfortableness with ourselves, the fear, right? It's the fear we feel, all of us feel, before our book goes out into the world, right? Am I good enough? Will people care? But you've got to push through that and show up for you, because your story matters and it's waiting for someone, and that someone is out there in the world. So you've got to get out there and you've got to reach people and talk about your book and share your message, whether it be about hope, resilience, fantasy, sci-fi, romance. It doesn't matter. You've got to believe enough in yourself to show up.
I love how you poured into that girl in the moment too, right? Like, I would think you could possibly be all about me as the author and come buy my book, but she came up to you and you poured into her. Like, what a memory for her to walk away with. Take away TikTok, take away all that. Just the fact that you had time to encourage her. Like, you're an adult speaking to a girl and bringing her up and making her feel good about her journey as an author. I think that's another part of being an author, is you get a platform now by having a book. You have a foundation, something to speak from, and
Right.
people look up to you especially that moment. That's a cool moment for her to know that an adult said something nice to her, and you're not her mom or dad, right? It's
Right.
another adult. It's like that's a big deal. You're a real author, and they said something nice to me. I think that's something all authors could really lean into a little bit more. You do have this platform now, and how are you going to use this platform to help others, right?
Yeah, and I think so many of us make the mistake of believing that our work is great, and it's not true. We don't get to decide that. Our readers do. And so, I think that with every interaction you have, whether it's at a book signing or you're in your community meeting new people, you've got to have this sort of mindset shift I talk about in my book, and it's about you know, give over get. We have this mindset of what can I get? What can I get? What can I get from this? What can I get from that? And when we start to make that subtle shift in mindset to what I can give, things start to change. And so by putting the interests of others first before your own, it's really about serving their needs. And as an author, in terms of audience, I think that is the most important thing in everything you do is understanding audience and who you're writing for. I mean, I wrote that book to change just one person's life, just one, and and now thousands of readers from all over the world are being touched and changed through the message in the book.
Excellent. So I'm going to steal a word from the title of your book.
Yeah.
Well, what is the purpose of your book? Can you tell us a little bit more, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it's about bringing humanity back into the workplace. You know, we have it wrong. The book is about creating purpose and meaning at work for your employees, your customers, and your community. It's about making the aspirational change in the world you want to see. It's about serving others so that they can become the best versions of themselves, who they aspire to be. And we've missed. I mean, the American workforce is so broken in so many ways. I speak to people every single day who are completely disengaged at work, who arrive at home and sit in their car for 5 minutes crying because they don't feel valued, seen, and heard. And so this book is really giving a very different perspective on creating meaning at work and why people's contributions matter to something bigger than yourself. And
Okay.
that's really the important part.
So you say it's written to one person. Who is that one person? I want to talk a little bit more about them.
Yeah. So, I'll sort of step back just for a moment. So, I was one of those people. I was the CEO of a company. I was chasing cash like so many other people do. And I had a tragedy in my life. And my brother committed suicide. And so I had to step back and really think, what is the purpose of all of this? Why am I doing what I'm doing? It's got to be more than just money. And he left me a message and his message was, be bold, be beautifully, authentically you. And that changed my whole perspective on the meaning of life and the purpose of leadership. So when I was writing that book, I wanted to change someone's perspective, just one's that while profit is important, it's a short-sighted goal. That when you create meaning for the people you serve, the money will follow. And I wanted to change someone's mind to understand that purpose isn't just about a statement of why. It's the burning desire to make a positive difference in the world.
Okay. So let's step back a little bit more than your background. Kind of what were you doing career-wise before all of this happened? Kind of give us a little bit of your background as well that kind of led into the book.
Yeah, so I founded a company back in 2006, and I grew that business internationally. We did business in over 30 countries around the world. It was amazing to be able to travel to Europe and Asia, Australia, all over the world and experience diverse perspectives and cultures and make a meaningful difference. Our purpose was all about inclusion, that every voice matters. And so through that purpose-driven work, I led led the company to a strategic acquisition in 2019. And then I stepped onto the executive team of the acquiring company to transform their product-centric approach to market to a purpose-driven one. And I spent 4 years doing that.
Is that your background education-wise and everything as well?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I mean, I did the typical things, I think learning is so important. And I think so many valuable moments in my life have been uncovered by books, by reading. It's so enriching. But yeah, I did go to the Smith School of Business where I studied leadership and strategy. And it was a incredible experience being a part of that. But, as you know, the School of Hard Knocks is also more valuable than just a formal education.
So where was the idea, the spark to write your book in the first place?
Great question. So back in 2023, I helped the company that had acquired mine exit. A private equity firm bought the business. And so they obviously wanted to approach the business in a very different way. They were profit driven, not purpose driven. And my position was eliminated. I no longer had value in sort of the larger equation of strategy and moving forward. So after my position was eliminated, I went through this identity crisis, like we so often do. Who am I? What value can I offer? Who am I really? And through this sort of situational depression, I had to sort of pick myself back up and say, I need to create value. I need to help people succeed. And that's where the idea for the book was born, to share my message and my experience, my failures, most importantly, so I could help other people navigate building purpose-driven companies.
Would you say your book is more geared towards leadership level within a company or also for employee level? Like, who's kind of like your target in that direction?
When I originally wrote the book, I wrote it for business owners, leaders, managers, and something that I did not expect happened, which was, and of course, my wife told me this. She said, this book is bigger than the workplace. And so I've had messages from all over the world from readers who say, it's how to lead a meaningful and successful life beyond the workplace. There's things that they're picking up in the book that they're applying to themselves. And I think the most gratifying thing is, reading a review from a teacher who said, this applies to my classroom. Everything that you've said is going to help me become a better teacher. That is the most gratifying part of this journey is changing the way people see how their value interacts with others.
So this has a multi-approach then to readers. As a reader coming to your book, there'll be something of value. You don't have to own a company to find value in your book then.
That's right.
Can you kind of give us a little bit of an insight into some of the things we're going to cover in the book as well? I want to give readers some more insight into kind of how the book is laid out and kind of some of the main points that you're trying to raise through your book.
Yeah, so the book really begins with purpose and how to define your purpose, followed by values that support that purpose. And I think a lot of people get purpose wrong. They believe if they have, a reason why, that they'll be, moving towards a target of an arrow moving towards a target of happiness, but that's not the case. A purpose statement is not enough to lead to a meaningful life or a meaningful work environment. It's got to be supported by values, core values that are aligned with that purpose and lived, right? And so many leaders lead with empty promises. And so the book really focuses on how to live those values, how to live that purpose. And then we move to the infinite loop of connection, where at the center is meaning. And the infinite loop of connection is about, the problem you're solving and why it matters. And most importantly, the impact you make both internally and externally, meaning people first, profit second, and how is the difference you're making in the world, lived through action and intention. And the last part of the loop is measuring evidence over time. And so it goes round and round because, of course, change is inevitable and we're constantly adapting. Yeah, the second half of the book is a simple strategic framework for fulfilling that purpose.
Okay. All right. So it all ties together then.
So it all ties
Okay.
together.
So you talk about core values. What would you say are some of your core values?
Yeah. Empathy for me is
Yeah.
so important. Empathy because I believe at the heart of every meaningful interaction, every meaningful innovation is empathy. Courage is really important to me. Of course, courage and authenticity is the other one. And we believe that authenticity is about being real, but it's so much more than that. It's about understanding you're a work in progress and that you're okay with being a work in progress. That I'm striving to become a better person, and it's that sort of real human work, that internal work, that moves to outward action. So courage, authenticity, and empathy are my
Okay.
values that I lead from.
Why is it that a lot of companies that I can speak to from my history seem to focus more on the bottom line and numbers and measurables and not so much about what you're talking about? This feels really fluffy and very, hard to nail down and measure the things that you're talking about. Why do companies not default to this as a measurable for their employees and their company's health? Why is it so hard for them to nail this down from a company's perspective?
Yeah, I think a lot of people go into business, and I ask this broader question. A lot of people go into business because they believe that serving others means being financially secure and generating profit, and it's the way we've been taught to do things. But the fact is that, through research and evidence, I've shown that purpose-driven companies grow 3 times faster. They have 56% higher productivity rates. Loyalty and retention is much higher, across every single metric of measurement. Purpose-driven companies perform at higher levels of achievement because they understand why they exist and the difference they want to make in the world. And there are companies that are doing it today. And those that are seeing tremendous growth. We look at, let's just look at a simple company like Bombas Socks, right? Bombas Socks is a company that makes socks. But for every pair of socks they sell, they donate a pair of socks to someone who's homeless. It has social impact. They believe in their why. They're making a difference in the world, one transaction at a time. Everything they do is focused on, ensuring that people who are homeless have access to some of the important needs on the streets. And listen, they've donated over 4 million items to the homeless across America. It's an inspirational story. And there's examples of this all over the place, of companies doing good in the world. And unfortunately, I think that one of the best kept secrets is the entrepreneurial journey is that Gen Z, this generation has changed. They're looking for purpose and values that they feel are meaningful to them, and they can't find it. And so they're gravitating towards companies that live with purpose, that stand up for what they believe in, even when it's hard.
Yeah, and I could almost anticipate, well, that's going to be expensive. If we're going to go down this path, Jonathan, that's going to cost us money and resources. Do we have the bandwidth to be that type of company, right? To give away socks, we need to sell socks. Like, I can already hear people sitting around the boardroom table going, nice idea, but is it practical? What would you say to that person?
Well, let's look at Target, right? Let's have a conversation about Target. Target is a company that believed in inclusion. They were the only company in the world to have more than 2,200 products that identified with the LGBTQ community. And they started to get some pushback from people, non-believers. And so they started to abandon this concept of inclusion. And guess what's happened to their profits as they've stepped back from diversity and inclusion and standing for their why? Their profits have tumbled in the markets. People are not shopping at Target anymore because they are beginning to abandon what they believed in and what they stood for in terms of shareholder interests. They believe by providing access to products to a broader market would drive profits up. It's having a negative impact by driving profits way down. And that's an example of a large company that is they've lost their way. They stopped believing in what they believe. They stopped standing up for something incredibly important, that we all matter, all of us.
Right. And I think when a company stands up and starts doing something community focused, serving not just the people who work for them, but serving the people that shop them and use their services or shop with them, I think it sets them apart from all of the others because they're there to serve. You get that feeling from them that there's something more to this company than just the bottom line. And then people reward that by coming to them and being attracted to them because of who they stand up for, right?
Exactly.
So good Target's a good example of that, right? That's a shift, and they're seeing the results of that shift in the boardroom now, right?
Yeah.
Having to deal with that,
and on the
right?
bottom line.
On the bottom line, yeah. So for a company who is not purposeful in their day-to-day of their business, any kind of direction from your perspective, now that the book's out there in the world and you're talking about this more and more, are there companies reaching out to you or people asking you for a little side time with you to kind of talk about their business? And how do you direct a company that's kind of lost their way and maybe lost their purpose?
Yeah, so great question. So I'm not doing any consulting.
Yeah.
I'm only focused on writing as an author and speaking. So I do speaking engagements to share this message of purpose. From a company that is floundering and have lost their way, we think that, defining something that explains our why is sort of this very simple process. We create something aspirational, something inspirational. Maybe it's storytelling based, and all of a sudden we're moving towards company transformation. But that's not the case. Because we've got to get really uncomfortable with why we exist from a company perspective, and that means peeling back the layers. Why was the business started in the first place? Who are we serving, and why does it matter? And what's the aspirational change we want to make in the world? And often these discussions they take place in silos without any conversations with employees. And so, they become hollow, empty promises. And when they're empty, it erodes trust. There's a lack of transparency and authenticity, and employees can see right through it. So what I say to entrepreneurs who are looking at the purpose journey is they really need to sit back and start asking themselves some really important questions about why they exist, but also to, move out into teams and individuals to get their feedback as well. And I know that can sound intimidating, but when I go on the purpose journey, it's not developed in a vacuum. We have focus groups and we have discussions and talks about why this matters and why it matters to individuals and teams. Because if you can't create that alignment with the people that are striving to achieve those outcomes, it'll never work.
The beauty of this show, I've got to meet some really amazing event promoters and people looking for guest speakers to come and speak to their organization and their communities. So the fact that you are a speaker, I don't want to let this pass by because there's people listening right now that would love to meet you. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about your speaking engagements. What do you focus on? How do you tailor what you do in public on stage? Can you give us a little insight to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of speaking engagements, I really focus on two things. Number one, purpose. So I believe there's two forms of purpose. There's workplace culture purpose, and then there's also personal purpose. So it depends on audience, but I'm talking about personal purpose as well as workplace culture purpose, and the values that need to support that purpose. They're foundational in terms of how a company behaves, both internally and externally. And one of the new talks I'm giving is the 5 truths I learned about going viral on TikTok. And those truths are really about purpose, values, authenticity, showing up. We talked about that earlier in the show, and changing your mindset from get to give. And I lead the audience through why this matters and how they work together to support intention, that change you want to make in the world.
So when you're speaking at an event, are you still setting up your own table, wearing those special shoes in case? Is that you now, or do you have people helping you now?
Well, I always carry a pair of special shoes, but no,
Okay.
most venues are set up and ready to go. I don't have to worry about, mic inputs or audio
Yeah.
or any of that stuff anymore, which is great. But showing up with presence is the most important thing to me. You've it's not just about message. It's a privilege to be able to stand on a stage, and you've got to make a meaningful difference for those you serve. And I write about that in the book, but I also believe that personally, that everything I do is with intention, and I want people to walk away with, value. I want them to be inspired and motivated and understand that change is possible.
Jonathan, I love having time with you. Let's talk about your website quick, because I do want to wrap up with a question here at the end. But can you take us through the website and kind of what we're going to see when we get there? And there's more information about contacting you. We can see your speaking and everything as well. But just talk about your website for a moment, please.
Yeah, it's simplestrategicplans.com. And the website is really there to, show so much gratitude for the readers who have lifted me through this journey. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So I'm just so deeply grateful for the people who have supported me in my journey. And the other part of the website is the opportunity to book a speaking engagement.
Very good. I like this. And I guess the one thing I'd like to kind of do to wrap up, Jonathan, is when we talk through the book, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think is maybe something that the reader needs to know about that we haven't really covered to this point about the book? I really want to make it crystal clear for the people listening that this is the right book for them and someone they know and love.
Yeah, I think, the missing piece that we don't talk about at work, and I know it's a question that you might not be accustomed to hearing, but this is so important, Dave. And the question is, how do we want people to feel when they interact with our products and services? Before we design any product or write, a business plan, how do we want people to feel? And that's such an important question, because that becomes the underpinning strategy behind everything you do in terms of marketing and storytelling, how you engage with audience. So many marketers miss the point. You can't change the way people think unless you change the way they feel. And we spend so much time trying to get into the rational brain without understanding first what emotionally moves people. And that's really an important part of the message, is that, Apple, a little known story about Apple, they didn't open their first store in America before they asked this very important question: how do we want people to feel when they walk into an Apple store? They've gone on to be the most successful retailer in America's history because they were able to answer that very important question. And so when you're thinking about how to serve others, whether you're writing a book, whether you're building a company, it's how do we want to make people feel?
And that comes through, going back to the beginning of our conversation, to you and how you made that girl feel when she came up to your table. And that just plays all the way through your story. It's a constant that I hear from you, Jonathan, and you're living in as a great example of that.
And
I think that
you too,
shows
Dave. You too. I
appreciate
mean,
that.
yeah. I mean, when you come onto a podcast, it's about how do I want the audience to feel? What are they going to walk away with? And it's a really important question to ask. So, as you're going through this writing journey, keep that question in mind.
And don't be afraid to get out, unfold the table, set up your books. And even if 100 people walk by and nobody looks at your table or even acknowledges you, just understand there's somebody is connecting with you, maybe from a distance.
Right.
And you don't know what that relationship's going to turn into, right?
And it can turn into something bigger than your wildest imagination.
But what I get from you, Jonathan, is you would still sit at that table if that never happened.
So, Dave, a little story. I sold 12 books that day. I went to the checkout counter at Barnes & Noble. They handed me an envelope with $101.29. And I came home to my wife and I was so excited. I had so much gratitude. I was like, Jen, I sold 12 books. Like, how cool is that? I got to sign and sell 12 books. It's not about, how many books we sell. It's about hearts, not charts.
Oh, okay, everyone, you're going to rewind that 5 times at least. Jonathan, again, congratulations on showing up. Congratulations on what that meant to somebody else from a distance. Again, capturing that moment and sharing it with us, and what you've been able to do with that footage and how the doors have opened for you. I think the doors would have opened for you without the video, Jonathan.
No, thank you.
But thank you for making time to be here and for sharing your story. Can we anticipate more books coming from Jonathan in the future?
Well, a little secret, Dave. I'm writing book 2. Yeah, so since a lot of doors have opened for me since book 1, and I'm incredibly grateful. I signed with a literary agency, one of the top in the world, and so my book is my current book's being translated into foreign languages. The audio rights were just acquired, so there's an Audible book coming out later this fall, and I'm writing book 2.
Well, my show is called Living the Next Chapter, so I do have to ask
Sure.
if you're living your next chapter, and it seems like you are, and you're doing very well at that as well. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you, Jonathan, for making time to be on the show. I'm so glad to connect with you. I would love to have you back in the future to talk about book 2.
I'd love to be back. I'd love to talk about book 2. It's got a very deep message. So thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me, and so good to talk to you.
Excellent. Everyone, all information for Jonathan in the show notes, as always. And I'll put a link to go watch. Let's get that view account up on TikTok. Go watch more and see this in real time and see something that really made me, as a casual thumb scroller on my phone, stop and go, oh, wow, what a moment. And to have time with the person on screen from that, it's a thrill, Jonathan. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5. Kind of fills up my cup, and I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening, but you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.